And we are live here at the Microsoft MTC in Malvern for the Dev Talk Show. You've got me, Chris Gomez, and we've got Andy Schwam, and we've got Rich Ross behind the camera on the producer set here, making all of the magic happen. So welcome to the show tonight, where we are streaming, coming live to you after a Philly.net meetup. We had a hands-on lab tonight with Jason Van Brackle introducing everyone to Docker. And it was pretty interesting, especially for someone like me who I'm still at that stage where I kind of know what Docker is, but I don't really use it that much. But I've done the Hello World, and I've even made a container, and I've even published it. And I still kind of say like, well, that's sufficiently close to magic. And I'm not still quite 100% sure how it goes. So it was really great to have him here. And we've got Andy here joining us. Andy, what did you think about? How much of the? I know you were also prepping for tonight's show.
Yeah, I was prepping, so I did not watch Jason's stuff. What I can tell you, here's my sort of 2 cents. And by the way, I'm super psyched to be here for this inaugural show of the Dev Talk Show. It may look like the old show, but it is the new show, right? So, listen, so it's great to have Jason come in to Philly.net and talk about containers and stuff. The guy knows, like I feel like he's sort of like our local expert.
Yeah, absolutely, right. He runs Philly Kubernetes in Center City, Philly. So
we're super lucky to have him like as part of our community, right? And if I need to know something about containers, I think he's the guy to go to, right? He's going to give you the good information. Having said that, I'm not really a containers guy, right? Yeah, and I think you've probably heard me say this before. There's a place for containers, but I think that I'm hearing just too much containers lately, and I think people are using that old hammer, that containers hammer for everything. So don't get me wrong, Jason knows his stuff, and the way he tells you to do it is going to be the right way to do it, I think. And there are certainly a time where containers is the answer.
Right.
But I think on a lot of stuff, containers isn't really the answer. I just feel like people think now, because it's the buzzword. And again, I don't want to poo-poo this because this was his talk today, and he's doing it again, I think, next month as well.
Yeah, next month, more of a dive into Kubernetes and Rancher, which is getting into the orchestration of it. So once you have containers, you get to more than, like, say, I don't know, 10, and now it's hard to manage again. And so you need, at least I made that number up.
But I think that's where the power of containers is. When you need that orchestration, when you're at the point where you need all that, then containers must have been important in the first place. But in my case, it's usually one website. Maybe there's like an external service or something like that, but we're not like at a full-on microservice where these things are really getting hammered and you want to just be able to deploy them all the time. So I'm not a container guy. I'm the wrong one to ask, I think, on that.
Well, I think we had Jason here in an interview at Code Camp, and I said I decided to ask. I'm trying to think of what do I ask to kind of get him to explain more about the value. And I had said, so what drives you to the decision? Why should you learn about containers? And the first words out of his mouth were, you should learn and use containers if you need them. So I think we'll definitely have Jason on the show. I think we even talked to him tonight in the future, because I'd love to get some of his thoughts on, just as developers, I think, how much do we want to learn about this? There's so much to learn about, right? It's crazy.
Here we go.
And it's not possible.
It's just another one of those things, like, we might have talked about this before too. Like, remember when a job interview for a developer was like, hey, tell me what you know about C#?
Yeah. How do you reverse a string in C? And you're like, oh, okay, all right. I'll show you how to program.
Right.
But honestly, if you're doing your developer interviews, and this might be something you do a little bit more, but I've definitely interviewed developers before. If you're doing your developer interviews today and you want experience, you're not going for someone new to the field. If they're new to the field, you're more forgiving.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody they're saying, I want an experienced, hit the ground running, understands the stack, your conversation may not even be about the programming language anymore.
Yeah, right.
You're talking
there's
about
no time for who cares about the programming language.
Right, because there's bigger fish to fry about how are you going to build this thing. What's your philosophy on how you architect? And I don't want to use that like it's a big word. Just even if you're building one monolithic application, how do you like to build things?
Yeah.
How do you like to do things to keep them maintainable so that we can deploy often and we can add features, and that the business doesn't say, why can't you guys do anything,
Yeah. So now we added containers, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is just really There's so much.
And we're not talking serverless or anything, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, see, I like serverless. I'm a fan of serverless.
okay.
Matter of fact, hopefully today we're going to show a little deployment to some serverless
Right.
stuff without containers.
Well, we'll
right?
have to define the word serverless. Is that more like platform as a service? You want to care less about the mechanization of it and more about, can you just take my code and stuff happens? Like, is that more of platform as a service? Because I think even serverless, we could have a whole round of people, some in this Philly area, define it for you. Some would say like, oh, well, serverless is when you take Lambda and functions and you
are you saying that the answer is it depends?
The buzzwords themselves are it depends. It depends on who you ask, right?
Oh my gosh.
And he's not a consultant either.
No, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing is we could ask Rich, who I think you work with Microsoft customers all the time, and they're coming to you. I'm just going to guess, and I don't know what we could really talk about here, but some, I imagine, would come to you and say, give me what you think is the best solution, and you might lean towards platform as a service. And then some say, man, I really don't want vendor lock-in, so it's got to be containers. I don't know if that happens to you.
It does. It happens a lot. Let's see. So,
and I understand. I just put him on the spot. And he's got to think about. Wait, I got to be really careful.
Right. Here I am spinning the dials.
Customers, right?
I'm
I mean,
not saying you were with them this week. Or last
Right.
week or like,
No, and
it's hard, by the way, for all of us. When we don't want to say anything bad about anything.
Right.
Or, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat or whatever these things are. And there's a lot of right ways to do things. There's also a lot of wrong ways.
And that winds up becoming a conversation with customers that happens a lot, where they say, I don't want to be locked into one cloud over another. I want to have that capability to go back on premises, and containers is often where they tend to go to give them that bit of flexibility.
Yep.
For certain workloads where container makes sense, and I think that was kind of Jason's comment, or the comment you relayed from Jason earlier. Those might be things that you can take advantage of, but I think there's some more flexibility potentially with architectures, depending on what we're architecting for and what solution, where if you would go ahead and do that as some kind of a serverless event-based technology or architecture, using some kind of PaaS offerings, there are, it's the right part of the solution for the right bit of architecture.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, with that, probably should just mention that yes, I work for Microsoft. So, that's my.
So you're
my
actually a
opinions
fan
are,
of vendor lock-in when
No,
the vendor is
no,
right, like the
let's not,
cloud. Which cloud are
That's
you?
not fair at all.
No.
But yeah, like you said, to be clear, Rich is a key part of the show. He's making so much happen for us behind the scenes, but is a Microsoft employee, where the two of us aren't.
Right, but you are MVPs. You're Microsoft Valued
MVPs.
Professionals, right?
So we work directly with Microsoft product teams. We get a wonderful opportunity to work with them and offer advice and feedback and see. Sometimes you get to see ideas from them and say, yeah, I think that's great, or I don't know what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what you folks are doing out there, but
I never said that.
Yeah, no, never. Right? We've always said that you are.
I just got my chip in the mail.
You're on the right track, right?
Yeah. No, we're fortunate to have.
Yeah. So you're right. Speaking of that, this is about the time of year where if you are fortunate enough to be renewed, you get another disc to put on it. We don't.
I thought about bringing mine in.
That.
I thought about bringing mine in today because the disc. I just got back from vacation and the disc was waiting
the disc
for me.
was there, right?
So what we're talking about is there's this sort of trophy you get as a Microsoft
You gotta be able to
MVP.
find it while
It's
you're
got to
talking
be on
about
the.
it.
Yeah, there's a trophy.
I mean, you
as
guys
MVP.
haven't tweeted about the fact you got updated or
I do,
renewed.
but I don't take a picture of the. I don't take.
I thought,
of
I'm
the
supposed to
thing.
get a second blue chip for 10 years, but the blue chip hasn't shown up yet, and so I was kind of excited about that. But that's not the point of the show, is to talk about how great we are.
No,
because we're not.
I completely agree that's not it either. It's just I was just thinking, wouldn't it be neat to just
there's a picture
to say
whose is that?
I view the image, and then okay, so just so there's some context to what we're talking about. I don't know if you have my screen, Rich.
Do you have him
but
on?
If you're fortunate enough, if you do, if he doesn't, then and look, this is totally on the spot. I'm like, come on, Rich, make the magic happen.
His is the one with the MVP badge up. That's the
right
thing,
now.
the MVP award. And mine has Mixer. So
let me make sure that I'm
Rich. So we sit up here and talk and have fun.
Yeah.
And Rich.
Oh my God.
The way this show works is that Rich has to talk to us but also switch everything around.
Yeah.
Control everything.
You're right.
Control the effects and everything that goes on in the show.
Yep.
But then anytime while he's
Right.
in the middle of doing
Hey,
something,
can you
we
just
go.
bring up my screen? It's easy, right?
Or while he's in the middle of doing something, we
Yeah.
go, well, what do you think,
Well,
Rich?
what do you
And
think,
he's
Rich?
like,
What's
I
your
wasn't paying
expertise?
attention.
Yeah,
I'm
what
trying
were we
to
talking about?
I'm trying to do something.
So you can see that this gentleman here is showing his certificate plus his award, and so the award every year you add a disc to it
yeah.
if you are renewed, and then after 5 years you get the blue, and then I guess
Yeah.
after 10. So
You get
I can
another-
also say I actually am getting my 5-year disc. It supposedly is on its way. I mean, not supposedly. I've
Yeah.
got the tracking number and everything.
Yeah.
But so that's amazing. The 5 years have gone by so fast.
I'm getting my second blue.
your second blue.
But but anyway.
I still
Yeah.
feel like it's brand new to me, so I'm honored every time.
I
think
still,
about that.
and you know what I always feel like, and I think you have this too, because we've talked about some of these things, is that I always feel like when I'm in the room with the MVPs and stuff like that, I go, why am I in here
Why am I in this
with
room
these
again?
people that seem to know so much more than I do about stuff? Which is also a great topic
Yeah.
to talk about. We've got this show here, and we're supposed to, and we're basically saying, but we don't know what we're talking about. But you know what? Here's the thing. Really, like it's an important part of being a developer is understanding what we don't know everything, and I think it's an important part of a show like this that when we're going to do demos. So I think a lot of people are used to, a lot of developers, at least in our community, are used to going to a user group, a meetup, and seeing a very polished presentation.
Mm-hmm.
When I do mine, I mean, most of the actual words I say, I mix it up a little bit, but it is scripted,
Mhm.
right? I know what I'm going to say for each slide, and I know what I'm going to say, and I even use some of the same jokes, let's be honest, from one meeting to another if I'm doing the same talk, right? And the presentation is scripted and it's going to work, right? In a format like what we're doing, it's totally different than that.
Yeah.
We might have a couple of ideas of what we're going to talk about, and we might have the ideas for a demo that we're going to do, but we really don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of value in that, and that's okay. I think it's okay to sort of be that way, and I think that's what happens when we're in the office, right? When you're at work doing things, now people don't want to tune in and see us just fail all the time, right?
Sure.
I think that would be
Right.
kind of a bummer.
We
But-
need a few successes.
Yeah, we want to have some successes, but we also want to show the reality that things don't always work as planned.
Yeah.
And how do we go through the steps of figuring out the solution? I think there's a lot you learn from that. That's that whole paired programming mentality of sitting with someone else and seeing what goes on. Now, I don't know why I segued into this, because we were talking about not knowing what we're talking about, I think is what it was.
And one thing related to that, when you hear people who watch people on streaming channels versus like some of the canned
like a
videos,
plural site, if you can
like a
use that
plural
as an
site, or
example,
even
right.
Channel 9 or things like that. There's the thought process that goes into it when they hit that wall, and to see someone who is kind of looked up in respect and say, oh, well, they're hitting the same wall that we're getting,
Yeah.
and they get past it, that gives them a little bit of encouragement around it. Like, well, when they hit a wall themselves, they can kind of break through it too.
Yeah. And then maybe someone that's on the stream knows something or has an idea.
Yes.
They're watching and they put in a little message and they say, hey, why don't you
Yes.
guys try this?
Right.
And that would be really cool,
Which-
and especially if it
Yeah.
works. And they
Which
help us.
actually, did happen for us when the first time we were working with the DevOps pipeline and we were in Linux. We didn't quite have the studio set up to the point where it was very easy to access the chat, very easy. It's getting better every stream. And the folks in chat were saying like, oh my gosh, it's Linux, the slash goes a different way. And we were, and after we figured it out, then looked up at the chat and said like, oh,
Of course.
well, they
If
knew.
we were paying attention,
but only we were
would've
paying
known.
attention.
Yeah, right. So we're going to do a better job at paying attention, I hope.
Again,
right?
and I think learning from that experience is why the chat from the community is a lot more accessible to us now
Right.
while we're watching the show.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of doing the show is we learn a little bit every time. So
It's community. It's like learning in the open.
Yep.
I think it's a really cool model.
Yeah, and hopefully the community learns something as well. But I think
Yeah.
equally we learn something from them.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So with a new show, if you have a new show and a new logo and a new channel and everything's branded, you'd figure like that's all you need, right? You just need your streaming platforms, links to those, and then your Twitter handle, and I think we kind of tried to corner the market on as much as we could with the Dev Talk Show. I think Twitter's done and the streaming platforms are done. I don't remember.
I tweeted out some stuff today that we're not marketing experts, I will say.
No, not yet. Anyway,
is that wrong of
sure,
me to say that we're not, if anyone that's, watching these shows is really good at marketing and says, hey, I want to help those guys out. Hey, I don't think we'd say no to that, would we?
No. But what we have, but not, we don't have is believe it or not, this is the web, and we don't have a website.
Well, we don't have a live website.
Yeah, there is not a live website. So what we thought would be a nice thing to do is to actually say to start on a live website and say, what does it take? Is it possible for just a couple of folks, to go ahead and get a live website on the real internet in a short amount of time? I'm not sure how far we'll get.
So do we need to drive up to the data center and with a disk?
Yeah, I mean,
to do that.
That's what you used to do, right?
That's what we used to do.
You used to get.
Well, first we'd have to get a server.
Well, you burnt. Yeah.
We'd have to have someone set up a server.
That's a form.
Do we know anyone that would host? We know sometimes we'd call a friend. Do you have a server that we could host?
Does your cable company allow you to serve port 80? Did you ever used to do that? I did. I used to shop. I mean, so before I think cable kind of won everything, I would vet the local provider.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move into an apartment, and I'd be like, hold on. Does the local, and at the time it was, I'm serious about this.
That's the greatest.
It was DSL. It was DSL.
So you would look at schools.
I went to DSL reports.
Most people want to know what the schools are like. I mean, you were single at the time.
I was single
or whatever,
and young, right?
So you were
single
basically finding
young.
out how the provider, not how good the bandwidth is even, but would they?
I wanted that to be good too. But so there used to be, and the site still exists, DSLreports.com, and it was the place to go.
Yeah.
You could go to DSLreports.com and you could say, I was moving to Carlsbad in California. I'm moving to Carlsbad. My provider is going to be XYZ.
Yeah.
And somebody answered and said, yes, you can. They do not block port 80.
Right.
That was important to me at the time because
so
my
cool.
blog was up on a site, and how else was I going to do it? It was going to be a box under
so you're going
to
to host it in your house.
Yeah. Well, how else were you going to do it? I wasn't going to pay for that.
That's why I said I usually called a friend. Do you have a machine that's... Because I was worried that, it was out on the internet. I was going to
paying for that is expensive.
Yeah.
It was expensive. Now it's practically
But
free.
the coolest thing about the cloud, I think, this cloud, this magical computer in the sky, the coolest thing about it is how easy it is to start I don't want to say a company, but to start an offering of something, whether it's a single person wanting to have a product or a website, you used to have to invest in servers.
Yeah, sure.
If you're a small startup,
Sure,
you have to pay for some of the cloud stuff. You had to have all that stuff. And now, you can just put it up there. So we do have a little bit of a website.
Yeah. So you too, with no data center, very little investment, you too can create the next big product and get completely overwhelmed by way too many customers that you're ready to handle for.
Because it's going to go viral.
It's going to go viral. And,
trust us.
And
our website might go viral
by the end of the night, right?
Because the amount of people watching this show right now, right?
There are thousands.
I love that commercial though, where they go live on that thing. Remember that one? And they're watching, and it goes 1, 2, and the next thing you know, it just starts
millions. And they're like, uh-oh, because they can't actually make whatever it is at that pace.
Yeah, they can't do whatever it is, and
so we are going to deploy the first iteration of the Dev Talk Show website.
Yeah,
and we'll see how that goes. We've a couple times on this show we've done the build a project and use pipelines. So by now we're totally experts. By now. I mean, it's nothing could go wrong.
Well, because
nothing went wrong when you were planning
everything
this
goes
either,
wrong.
right?
Everything always goes wrong, right? I mean, first of all, the portal is probably different than it was this afternoon because the Azure portal changes daily, and that's a really cool thing. But it's also it's hard. It's really hard to deal with some of these things. But those are the kind of things that happen at work too.
It does.
Right? We're at work, and I'll tell you, an example, by the way. So my company is, and this is going to sound like I'm knocking on, this is not a knock on Microsoft by any means. Or I know lightning might, come down anyway. But no, it's actually a compliment that things change so fast, right? But at work, we are switching from Skype to Teams, and we're in this big process of doing it. And we actually have a few people dedicated. They're working hard at sort of like coming up with some notes and making sure that everyone's on the same page. And they get ready and they're about to sort of send out this, detailed information about using Teams. And then Microsoft deployed a new version of Teams. And I said to them, I go, yeah, this is the kind of thing that happens.
Yeah.
They called me, like they were like, they didn't call me. They sent
And
me
the
a Teams
splash
message.
screen is different.
And it's just
and
different.
the labels for the buttons, for some reason, they've gotten rid of all of the text.
Well,
so
how
now,
to join a
because
team
believe me,
meeting
we
and
all
stuff
know
like that.
we all know exactly what
Yeah.
all those icons mean. WebEx just did that recently, and I don't mean to pick on them, but every button used to say call, chat,
Right,
audio,
right,
whatever,
right.
and then they got rid of all that. And so I literally sat there in the first WebEx and said, I don't know how to share.
I don't know how to share it. Right?
I just don't know how to do it. And I tried, and nope, that muted me. No, and so
Yeah,
you
but-
can tell I'm a big fan of clean design without telling me what the labels are. I'm a huge fan of it.
But the
We'll
point
have
is that
Billy
these,
Hollis on sometime to
Yeah.
talk about that.
but the point is that these things this is the pains of being in this kind of industry, right? It's a benefit though that we have that things are new each day. Like, we have to keep learning our job, right? And anyone that's watching this, or anyone that comes to meetups, and anyone that reads blogs or writes blogs, all that stuff, we know that already, and I find it really exciting. So hopefully we're gonna get this deployment working.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing now, or do you
Yeah.
want to kick in and talk about some other talk, or what?
Let's see what you've got now, and then we can.
Oh,
we've got
man,
some other
all right.
topics to do
So
later.
I'm gonna
I
do
don't
it-
know if we have your screen.
Yeah, he supposedly has my screens. I'm gonna switch over to first off the beautiful Visual Studio, and yeah, I'm waiting for it.
There it
Okay,
is, yeah.
so just for kicks, I'll show you what the website looks like.
And this is Visual Studio 2019. You
This
happen
is
to be in
preview, I
preview.
believe. Yeah, I'm in preview. You can see the preview.
Now, did
there,
you
yeah.
need to be in preview for what you did?
I didn't need to be.
Okay, that's fine.
But I'm trying to use preview more, just to sort of be a part of that whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we can talk about why or why not. But I just was.
Yeah, no,
I
that's a
wanted
great
people
question.
who are starting right now and they're saying like, I want to fire up the IDE.
Well,
You don't have to have preview.
The
for what
reason
you
I
did.
was using preview at one point we were talking about Blazor,
Yep.
remember that and stuff
Yep.
like that. We've scaled it back. Hey, this is our website, or at least what we think it's going to be. First, it's really a V1.
Right, V1.
I threw some stuff together. We got our new logo. I hope everyone likes the new logo.
Mhm.
How did we get that logo, Rich? That was from
So we went and did a
we call it like a contest, right?
no.
Well, it
Well,
wasn't a
we
contest.
Sort of.
actually sort of. Let me come back in here. So what we did was we used a site called Fiverr, and used that to basically put a request out to say, hey, we want a logo for our new live streaming channel, and we chose some artists or some creators who had something that looked kind of like a vintage logo, and had some samples of theirs up there, and basically said, this is what we're looking for. So they gave us a couple of ideas. We kind of vetted them internally and said, yep, this is what we like.
Yep.
And
What is
so
that?
that's what you're seeing.
Fiverr.com?
Yeah.
Fiverr.com with 2 R's.
Yeah.
2 R's.
Although
Of
one
course.
R works.
1 R. Oh,
Is there an
Yeah.
E?
Oh,
It's
that's
not
right, I remember that.
Fiverr with like just an R at the end,
It's-
like FIVR.
type it into your browser.
So it is FIVERR.com. The 2 R's was how they started the brand, probably
Right.
because that was the domain they could get.
Look at that.
But you know,
Oh, I see. So it's other services. These
Yeah.
are- so this
They
is
do
like one of these
voiceovers,
gig
they
economy
do-
things.
yeah,
And this
Yeah.
plays right into what I was saying earlier about how when you want to start like a company or a stream or whatever it is that you want to do, there's so many things at our disposal now. We want graphics. We go and we ask someone for graphics. We don't have to like go to some store and find someone in our whatever. We have access to these things. It's just cool.
And to that point, we also did our the intro music that we use on the outro as well. So the music we have for the show
Yeah.
is something that we picked up from Audio Jungle, which
Yeah.
is a very similar kind of scenario where basically they create music, they put it up there and say, how much, basically not bid, but they
Yeah.
say this track is $20, this track is $5.
Right.
So,
they have
and then-
pricing for licensing, and then if
Yeah.
I remember correctly, see, we looked at a lot of sites, so I get them confused. But was this one of the ones where some of the tracks also had different size loops?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the same track, essentially the same song,
Yep.
but you get the full song, and then here's a 10-second loop, here's a 30-second loop, here's a minute loop.
Yeah, and the one that
Okay.
we got for here was that. It was a 2,
Yeah.
a 1, and a 30. So we have the
Yeah.
capabilities to do, like, if we ever get, really that slick where we, do segments and we have something
Sure.
to kind of bridge the segments, we could play some music to do
Yeah.
that. So.
We'll get there.
I think it's amazing stuff that in the past what would you do?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
What would you do? Like, okay, so a logo, I feel like I
We've
could
totally
take.
gone off track, but that's okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I feel like I could try to draw a logo, right? Like it would
Right.
probably be bad.
And we did.
And then
We did,
I took a
But
picture of the
music is a whole-
napkin
but
and
mu-
I said, "Hey, what do you guys think?" And they were like, "The napkin's got to go, man."
But
Like,
music's a whole other story.
what did you have?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we can't, like, make music, I don't think. I mean, I play guitar, but I don't think you want to hear me strumming the guitar. You know what I mean, right?
Get a
So
drum
anyway.
machine, yeah.
So we digress, but
Yeah.
isn't that
So-
the name of
so
it? That show
your-
should be called We Digress.
Yeah, right.
The Digress Talk Show?
The
Is that what
Digress
we
Talk
did?
Show.
Is that
So-
anything?
What we wanted was just some basic stuff, right? So it talks about, like, where to find us and how to catch up to us on YouTube. And the latest episode, which isn't really accurate because this is our last week's show, which was not called the Dev Talk Show. That was called really Tech Talk.
Yeah.
But we'll tweak that a little
That's
bit
okay.
afterwards.
So the end
And
of
we have
that
a little
brand.
affiliated content, which hasn't even been finished yet. But affiliated content, because we're you guys are responsible for streaming all the Philly.net stuff, which is awesome, right? And I mean, we don't really need to go through this whole thing, but
Yeah.
just some other stuff. And the website doesn't need to do much. The most important part, of course, is this, which is like, wow, look at that. Look at these three
Nice
cool
job.
people,
Cool.
right? And a little bit about what we do. We felt like we needed to have someplace to point people. Anyway,
Yep.
This is the website. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
This is our website. So here it is in, and let's sort of stop doing this. So of course, what should I do? I probably should right click and do publish.
Well, that's how you deploy things, right? In fact, at Microsoft, when your customers come in, like you right click publish
Don't
for
put
them,
him
right?
on the spot
No.
with that.
So
Come
That's-
on.
I knew
totally
you were
me.
coming to me for that. So
He knew. He was ready.
because I viscerally reacted with every
Yeah, it's
core
true,
of my
right.
body that is
We
wrong.
all think
Oh,
it's wrong.
God,
I hate
Like
it, yeah.
developers, especially, I think the more experienced you are, the more you recoil
Yeah.
at right click publish because a variety of reasons. The one that comes to mind for me is, how am I going to do this again?
Right.
Like,
click
that's
publish
the,
again.
That's the that's the first. So wait a second. My machine is the only machine that can do this.
Well, it built on my machine.
Right.
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 if
Doesn't matter what I had installed extra, any kind of dependency.
and they're the kinds of things you start thinking about after it's
Yeah.
not your first rodeo anymore,
Yeah.
right? Is you
Right.
look at that. But what is the advantage of right click publish? Because there is value to it.
Sure.
There
of
is
course
value.
It's the cool it's a cool demo.
Well, for one thing, it works.
It-
It
Yeah.
works. It's quick. When you're
And-
doing demo, but even outside of demo, if you're a one-person shop and yours is the machine,
Yeah.
you could argue that like for getting some stuff started and things like that, it's not a good long-term solution.
Right.
No,
I think there's a
definitely
lot
not.
of things that we see that we demo or we see in demos that are good. Step one, getting your feet in the door.
Sure.
But I don't
There's-
think it's a good long-term solution because of the repetition. You don't want to have to manually repeat things over and over again. We want to rely on DevOps.
Yeah.
We've talked. Probably this is a topic that I think we're all pretty passionate about. And I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
we've been down that before.
The other thing that, and this is in this case, I don't know if it helped you as much, but we have seen value on this very show of going ahead and relying on the easy button because we couldn't figure out how to build it manually. And
Right.
so you kind of use and this happened with the DevOps pipeline,
Mhm.
and we were sitting here on this very show saying, I can't understand why we can't get this task right. And it was like, well, there's a demo where you push a button and it builds everything. Well, let's go look at that demo. And
We forgot.
that's the argument you have to supply to the task.
Yeah.
Duh. And so, in some respects,
No, it's helpful.
you can go because what
It's
you
a learning
published
tool,
here
what
is
you're
going to be up on the Azure cloud.
Right.
You could now go inspect that website and say, "Oh,
and extract.
I
out
didn't
the template or
put
something.
this in my config." And
Right.
I'm not saying those are the problems you had,
Mhm.
but so right click publish is the way to do it. That's
Oh, yeah.
absolutely the way to go.
So what we do want to do is use DevOps.
I think it's interesting that you called it the devtalkshow.web,
Yeah.
which we've talked about before, is that you immediately wanted to call this project out as the website instead of just letting
Yeah.
it be.
Because
The
you
name.
can't see my mouse. Can you see my mouse? on
And
there?
I'm
No, but
specific. Yeah, you can see it when you
Can't see it on the thing. Okay.
I've seen it now. And what the reason why I'm calling this
I don't
stuff
see the
out is
pointer
because
moving, no,
I
don't
guess
see
you're
the
right.
pointer,
there's something about hardware that does that, like a hardware
Yeah.
pointer or something.
Yeah. So we got a solution called the Dev. What's that?
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Can I do that? Let's
So,
try that now. I
the
think you told us
reason
this
why
last time.
the reason why I want to call this out is that we have talked before about why do we make the choices we make? And so here, as a reflex
look at
action,
that. Wait. See that's I gotta give props out
that was pretty good.
to Rich again. We talked about how the magic all was happening.
Right.
Rich
He knew exactly
solved
what to
that
do.
problem right
Yeah.
there, right?
Is so you subconsciously you were just like the
Yeah.
solution is Dev Talk Show, the website is Dev Talk Show Web, because I feel like you're already envisioning
There's gonna be services, right?
more
Yeah,
projects.
of course.
You're
There's gonna be
envisioning
more
so
stuff. than
great,
that, right,
awesome.
yeah.
You
So,
also
yeah.
it's not Blazor, which is okay. I'm not. That's fine.
Appreciate that.
It's fine.
He doesn't like my work.
But anyways, it's not Blazor, and the reason I spot that, I'm spotting the controllers, models, and reviews
yeah,
folder. But it is .NET Core, ASP.NET Core, and I'm spotting that because of
is.
the app settings.json
Yeah, you see the good
and
stuff there.
the www root folder where you put static content.
Right.
Or in the .NET framework, you just splat it in the
Right.
root folder.
Blazor, I feel it's worth, like, this is
Yeah,
one of the things we want
sure.
to do on the show. We want to talk about the why behind
Mhm.
some of these things. Blazor is pretty cutting edge still, and things like that. Core was cutting edge for a while, and I was also a little, chairs creaking there. I pushed back on Core a little bit because I would say, well, I don't need Core yet, and it's advancing and it's getting there. I feel like Core has matured, and hearing the story from Microsoft that Core is really, we're hearing the story now, Core is the way forward.
Yep.
The new features are going to be in Core. Core should be I think it's worth saying that Core should be the default now.
Okay.
Core should, at least when I'm writing apps,
When you start today,
Core is,
it's a new project today, .NET Core. It's not even a question anymore for you.
I don't think there's a reason
Right.
What else would it be?
versus
Well,
full
framework,
Full
.NET framework.
Right.
Sure.
And that term
I'm not-
full, I mean, .NET Core is going to surpass .NET framework.
And that's
it
why,
will be
right.
it will be full core. Is that what we're gonna?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I hear
well,
you. A lot of
Sure.
people still use that term full framework. That is what Andy's saying is common. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
And believe me, I'm not running around correcting people and being that jerk, right? But
You're
the
not?
fact of the matter, no, I'm not. The fact of the matter is Core now has, in many respects, more features than framework. Core has the HTTP client factory, which
Yeah.
we don't have in framework.
Right. That's a good one.
Which is great. And Core has the gRPC support, and Core has, I think it's going to prove out to be a better standalone service model than we kind of sort of have in framework. But, it's really a first-class citizen in Core. But let's not focus on that.
Yeah, but the point is Core.
You've done it. And
Yeah.
this happens to be .NET Core 2.2, which is the latest.
Yep. And so let's get it live, right? So to do that, I mean, the first thing we got to do is go over, hey, look, that's us. Let's close that. I don't want to confuse us there.
The short answer as to why it's not 3 is because we have not yet deployed .NET Core 3 to Azure today.
When you say we, you don't mean just we, me, and you.
I mean the three.
We, the world.
I mean me and Andy.
Yeah.
Rich may have that down. I'm not trying to speak for you.
Yeah. He's saying we're not able to deploy
when you
3.
When you go to Azure App Service or containers and you say what .NET,
There's no option.
there's no
for
option for
There's no
3.
option
There's
right
no
now,
option
right.
for
It doesn't
3
mean
yet.
you can't do it.
No,
it just
'cause
means that
there's a post in
you
our
do
docs.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
you
That shows
you
you
bring
how.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we just haven't done that.
We haven't done it yet.
Right.
But we're going to, and that'll
Yeah,
be
we'll-
something we can learn on the
We'll
show.
upgrade the thing
Yeah.
next week or something like that, So the code is never going to be done, right?
Right.
And the deployments are never. We're always going to be working on these things. So I'm a fan of Azure DevOps, and so we need to build the solution before we can deploy it. So I was going to create a build pipeline, and you can see on my screen I don't have any in this Azure DevOps project, which is the Dev Talk Show. We created this recently for the thing, and so. And we've done some of this on the show before. Wow, my chair's really creaking. I don't know if that picks up in the mic. It does pick up in the mic. Yeah, great.
All right, that's the first issue.
There you go. We want to get new equipment in
Okay,
here.
so
And I think we went through this.
we did it with GitHub before.
But we can't really say we did because that was not the Dev Talk Show.
We'll solve that problem another time.
So anyway,
The legacy of the show, it will be the early Philly Tech Talk, and I think it's important. That,
No, it's not. It's an important part of it, right?
Yeah.
Just like WinForms. Web Forms
Yeah.
was there. Everybody poo-poos that, but guess what? We used it. It was great.
Yeah.
Right. It was part
For
of
a
our
long
history. Part of our history. All right. So I'm going to go. My code is in an Azure repo.
Right. So
Git.
here's the flexibility of pipelines.
Yeah.
Previously, we've been using GitHub. This time, it's in pipelines. It's in Azure repos. Who cares?
Yeah,
Who cares?
doesn't
Pipelines
matter.
doesn't care.
And the name of this project isn't really important, but it's in this Git repo called TDTS, the Dev Talk Show Public Web.
Right.
That's just what we called it, right? And so, and I chose the modern way. I could have gone back. We talked about this once before. I could have gone back and chosen to use the classic editor, but I'm not going to choose the classic editor. I'm going to use the modern editor, and it knows my app is .NET Core already, and it's putting this stuff in here for me, right?
And that's because we selected ASP.NET Core a few
Actually, you know what?
screens
I
ago.
wonder if this is finding the old one, because this looks like it.
Or it's finding the Azure Pipelines YAML sitting in the repo,
It's finding the one sitting in the repo that I thought I deleted,
which is okay.
and I didn't, but it's in the repo.
It's okay.
So, what if I?
Because we've gone through these steps.
Yes, and what it would have been is it would have looked like this. It would have looked like that. That's sort of what you get out of the box, right? I don't know why. I'm kind of surprised that it doesn't put those other steps in by default. But what we needed to do is add the publish steps, because we want to take our ASP.NET application and publish it so it's runnable, and then take those things, take that app and publish the artifacts so that the release pipeline has access to it, right?
So it's two different uses of the verb publish. The first task, which it's a little bit over your head there, literally.
You mean over my head? This?
Yeah, this is where this is where we have to learn, like, zoom it and really learn it really well, right? Or learn Windows Magnifier, which I think is like Control++ or something.
Yeah, I
could be wrong about that.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do it right now.
Is one of the tasks is essentially running .NET publish.
Yes.
It would be just like you with the command line saying .NET publish with some arguments.
Yep.
You want the release one, and put the output in this place, but we're using variables. We're using Azure Pipelines variables, so that way that output goes to a real live directory, because we don't control these servers. Tell us where the artifact staging directory is, pipelines.
Right.
And the second task at the very bottom, publish build artifacts.
I'll highlight it.
That task that uses we're reusing the word publish, but this is saying, okay, take what's in the artifact staging directory, and that is now a published artifact that we can then go address in releases.
Yeah.
We're in a build right now, so we're in a build pipeline.
Right.
We will later have a release pipeline.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
by the way, thanks to the magic of Rich Ross, we are now on the opposite side of the screen.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. So
Is that a Stream Deck button? That's what I have on my Stream
Unfortunately, it
Deck.
is not.
Oh,
that's a cool idea, though.
I have it.
To have it.
I can do all three fingers where I can go left, off, right on my Stream Deck, and I just flip around. I mirror around. We'll
I don't even have any of that
It's
stuff.
pretty cool.
All right, so there it is. I can run it.
I don't stream as much as we do here, which has got to change a little bit, but that's okay. Yeah, so now we're just proving that it builds, right?
Right, because it's not going to build on my machine. It's going to build in a neutral place on a server in the cloud.
So works on Satya's machine.
Works on Satya's
machine. That's the
machine.
sticker we'll put on it. Works
on Ubuntu, because that's what's really cool.
Well, that's the other thing, right? You develop this on Windows without a care in the world that you're going to deploy on Ubuntu.
Right.
And believe me, there are probably pitfalls that we haven't discovered yet about how you want to make sure your code is cross-platform, or even how to write your code so that on a certain platform it does one thing and another platform does. But when you're at the hello world stage of your website, you don't have to deal with any of that. That's kind of nice, right. I think. It seems to me the architecture, the way the framework itself, the way ASP.NET Core and ASP.NET Core MVC in this case has been built, you can get started and you don't have to deal with those things yet.
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
While this is building, I guess I can show that the next step we're going to do is release, of course.
Right.
And I did go in and I created this. This isn't really going to probably be the final home of this application. So I created this TDTS test resource group.
And you do have Azure Mask going, which is
I do have Azure Mask.
That's great.
Yeah, it's working, so it's kind of cool. And so I have already an app service plan, which is a free plan because it's not going to take much for this thing for today, and I have an app service running, and so I did that beforehand, because that'll take I can complain about it and go, oh well, that'll take like a minute to spin up, and we don't want to waste people's time. A minute, and you've got like a server, basically is what that is. I mean, it's serverless,
and so like for people who don't know Azure Mask,
You can't point that far.
I can point this far.
Right.
The subscription ID is blurred out.
Hang on, right up here.
And
Where's the subscription ID would
it's
be?
kind of it's.
Where would it be? We're up in here somewhere.
Right below that menu section where it says new and then edit.
It's basically
And then there's
right over here. Oh yeah. All right,
so
right here.
that's
it's
blurred out,
yeah.
and then also your email address was blurred out.
Yeah, right. And if
Or
I
just
hover over my
removed.
profile, let's see. I thought if I hover over, it doesn't even. See that?
Fantastic.
This is cool stuff.
Yeah, so
right?
this is an extension.
Great demoware, like for demoware.
It's so yeah. If you're making videos or you decide you want to stream or anything, then
this is
definitely get
Azure
Azure
Mask right here. This icon here says Azure Mask is running.
we need I think we need an Azure DevOps mask that just
We
does a
need
couple
an
things.
Azure DevOps.
But Azure
mask,
DevOps is pretty good. There's not a ton of
Yeah.
confidential information there.
So which browser is that in?
This
Um,
is Chrome.
You're using it in Chrome. I use it in Firefox.
Now to install it in Chrome, you actually have to do a little bit of a hack because
Do you?
it's not in the Chrome store anymore,
Hmm.
right? So you had to go and download it from their website, I think, or maybe it was on Git or something like that. And you can put it in here, and you have to enable like developer mode because I'm sideloading the extension, and it
Okay.
was a little bit of a weird
Okay.
thing. But
so
it's
I use it
working.
in Firefox. I think I just got it from the store. Perhaps an update will change that. I don't know. I think it should be able to.
I don't know
install
why.
it
There
in
must be some reason that Chrome.
Developer Edge.
Now I use IE9 a lot.
Do you?
Do you know if it works in IE9?
Yeah, we can't be friends anymore. IE9.
IE9. All right,
That
so
doesn't even work on Satya's machine.
No,
IE9? No
doesn't.
way.
so this worked. This built.
Fantastic.
And we can come up here and look in the artifacts, and this is what we were talking about before. And this is the project. This is the zip file, right? So there it
Okay,
is.
great.
That's my.
Can we download that?
Yeah,
Not that I want you to.
You can. No, you
I didn't
can.
know that you could. Okay.
Yeah, you
So
can.
that's kind of cool.
You can click it, right?
That's kind of neat.
Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah.
I
This is
never
really
tried
cool.
that
You can
before.
download this
Yeah.
and then inspect. You know what the
Pretty
package
cool.
you're putting together. Yeah, it is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So that also tells me that Azure App Service itself, or at least a task in the release pipeline, is ready to take a zip and deploy it. I'm not. We'll find out which the two.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
you know,
So we got the.
I don't want to get lost in the weeds on that.
So now, by the way, so I said we created the website, the app service for this. I'd like to take this in a next episode or in a further episode and go to the ARM template idea. I like the idea of infrastructure as code.
Yeah.
Right. Where I shouldn't have to create something, sort of by hand and know that
Right.
it's there.
I agree.
I would like my deployment to say create the stuff, or if it
Right.
exists,
Don't do
update the
it,
stuff
yeah.
or whatever. Right. So
Sure.
we'll do that, but baby steps for today. So, so I create the new pipeline. In this case, the top one, we've got a bunch of options, but I'm going to choose the top one, Azure App Service Deployment. That's what we're doing,
Okay.
right? I haven't played with a lot of these,
I
quite
know,
frankly. I've
and
done
there's
this
so
one
many.
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot.
It's actually pretty amazing when you look at all the stuff you can do in here.
Well, look what the second one is. Deploy a Java app,
Yeah.
right? There's Node.js. There's PHP, right? They're not like shunning those things
No,
anymore,
Python,
right? Yeah, right.
Kubernetes.
It's all up here.
Use Azure.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll apply the whatever it is, a template or something like that. It
Right.
says get started. And stage one is going to be production. So there's something we're not doing right, by the way. You can name your stages. In other words, we don't have a QA site. We probably should do that, right?
Okay.
Maybe we'll do that in another show.
Right.
But we wanted to get this site up. I like to have a stage for each environment that
Okay.
we're going to have. But really, first thing we need to do is go over here and say what's our artifact? What are we starting with, right? And so what's cool about this is I could go right to an Azure repo or GitHub or something like that, but I want to go to the output of my build. So the project happens to be called internal. That might be confusing, but in our Azure DevOps org, we wanted to have internal stuff that maybe we will keep private, and maybe we'll have some projects we share. So I just called it internal, right? And then here's my drop down, and there's the build pipeline that we created. We only have one, so that was pretty easy. And this pretty much says take the latest.
Yep. Okay.
And I don't really know what the source alias is. What is that? This is an identifier that uniquely identifies an artifact linked to a release pipeline. It cannot. I just always leave it what it is.
So
this
this source alias here in add an artifact. What I'm curious about is, I think this is an alias you're defining right now. It's not saying. I don't believe that it's saying that the name of the artifact is underscore TDTS public web. In fact, I believe the name of the artifact is drop, which it's trying to tell us.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. So this is later it's going to look for something called underscore TDTS.
Yeah, like I think you could refer to that.
Yeah, okay.
You could say, okay, well, this artifact called, so you could name it something like Andy's artifact, but that's fine.
I've always
default
left
name
the
seems
default,
to be
yeah.
okay.
Right. So so now we have the sort of left side, the input to our build pipe, to our release pipeline. And then over here in production, we have one job and one task because it created this for me. So what I want to do, in this case, this is so straightforward. And by the way, we could extend our build pipeline that we just had to run tests and things. We can do that.
Sure.
We can extend our release pipeline to do more.
Right.
But for now, we want to basically take this and push it to my Azure sub.
So you selected the artifact that we published from the build pipeline. So my question for Rich here, which we actually have from our good friend Bruno, is can you plug in on-prem Visual Studio Team system to Azure DevOps pipeline?
Can I plug?
Which I guess would mean if your code was on-prem. Let's say your code was on-prem. I believe so. What I do think I've seen in the options is that you could have an arbitrary Git URL, which that could be on-prem. I don't know about the answer to TFS, and maybe we don't know right now.
I'm muted. I'm gonna just double check my thoughts on that. I know there are connections, but whether it goes back as far as VSTS, that
maybe just
should I? The new Azure
what if I just
DevOps
call it
server, right?
Okay,
yeah, but
right.
I think
which is kind of the rename of Team Foundation Server /
right.
Now I don't want to tell you you're wrong, and I don't know. No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying. But my guess would be though, a lot of those APIs are really kind of the same, even though they branded it. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of the stuff when you're connecting into them.
I think you're right. I think I want to just because it's easier to say. It's easier to come back afterwards and say, "Yep, it does," versus saying, "Yes, it does," and they say, "Oh, I was wrong about that."
Yeah, and I understand.
And the difference between us and Rich is that I would probably just go like,
it probably
you can
works.
do that.
Yeah,
but Rich is going to give you the right answer.
I imagine it probably works, but you should probably ask somebody who works for Microsoft.
Right. Now, I do know on a similar thing though. I do know there's a lot of interaction you can do. You can have build agents that are running. So because he's saying, can I plug an on-prem VSTS to Azure DevOps pipeline?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it sounds like we're talking about a build that's created on-prem.
Could be.
And then that
or
build
maybe
becomes
code.
the artifact to go up to.
But if you're already using VSTS, I would almost argue, well, why not do your build pipeline in?
I understand.
So there's all kinds of ways to compute it.
But remember that one of the things we've said many times over and over about Azure DevOps, and I should probably let you continue back on your release pipeline, is we've talked about how it's pluggable. We've talked about how totally. Hey, you like boards, you use boards.
Yeah.
You like repos, use repos. You like GitHub, use GitHub and then use pipelines. You like Jenkins, use Jenkins. Not that I've done the Jenkins demo, but I've seen it in the Azure DevOps lab, so I know it's there.
Yeah.
Right? I know that this thing is completely pluggable.
Yeah, now I'm distracted and I gotta take a little bit of a break because
okay.
No, I'm distracted because in the comments, Football Talk says hi. Now you know what Football Talk is?
No.
You don't remember who Football Talk is?
I do not.
Football Talk's my son Benny.
Oh, right.
So Benny's on. And
awesome.
Maybe he's watching, and he might be showing my daughter and my wife even, because he's the only one who knows how to use the technology.
Well,
and I said, hey, bud, why don't you show Mom and Sarah the stream? So
I did see, what was it, his fantasy football special
you
from
saw
a couple years ago? Now, that was good stuff.
He's a streamer.
That's
he's
good stuff.
He's a streamer, and he should be doing more on that.
So thank you for joining us.
But
Football
hopefully Benny is watching, and anyway, so on to important matters.
I'll give you the full screen for Benny there.
Hey, Benny. All right, buddy. So now I got to choose my Azure subscription. Now, if you look at the drop down, this is kind of important. You're going to see two sort of sections in here, right? The bottom section are my available Azure subscriptions, right? And when I come in from scratch, that's what we're going to see. And under available Azure service connections, you're going to see nothing. Okay. Now, And I wonder if there's a way. I don't know how to undo this. This is a problem that I didn't know how to undo this because I played with this in advance, right? But if I choose something like this, right, what it's going to ask me to do is authorize.
Right.
See that one? And once you authorize, and to authorize, I put in my username and password that says I'm giving it permission, right? Once you authorize, it shows up as an available service connection. Now, there's other ways to do this. So at work, in the real world, we use service principals. This is going to create a service principal. I believe what it's doing is it's creating a service principal under my authority because it was my username and password. But there's ways to do that and create other service principals with Azure Active Directory and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure how that works when I'm using my own subscription and I don't really have full Azure Active Directory. So this is where we look at Rich and we say
you could delegate this though, right? Because in an enterprise, you don't want to always have to keep going back to Andy.
That's exactly right. That's why we use a different account to create the service principal. So Rich,
right. So you would create that service principal. Whoever has the permissions to do that, and that usually goes against your Azure AD environment.
Right.
They would run, a CLI or a PowerShell command that basically creates that account for you, and then gives you essentially the ID and the password. You go back over to DevOps and say, this is the account you go ahead and use to make that happen.
That's cool. Sorry, I'm looking over your shoulder and it says, hi, this is Sarah. So now my daughter is watching, and so I have to say hi to Sarah. And we're going to move on from all that, but I can't
Yeah.
No,
my kids are awesome. We just spent 2 weeks in Europe, and
cool.
I'm surprised they're still awake with the jet lag. I'm falling over. But okay, so hey guys, all right, so
so
anyway,
you pick a subscription, but it ends up being a service connection, and one of the
which
questions
is cool.
you asked
That's
me
an advantage.
is later you wanted to get rid of the service connection so that you could demo this, and I actually think that is sitting in project settings. But why don't we move?
Let's do this. Maybe we'll come back and take a look at that. We should write notes and say we want to come anyway. So app type, web app on Windows, and an app service name. I've already created it, and I showed it before in the portal is TDTS test, because this is just a temporary thing. Now again, eventually we would have another step in our release pipeline that would create those resources for us, but we're not doing that in this thing. So that's it, right? So I've got this thing and it's gonna work. What do you think?
Huh?
That's it. So
the app service is in there.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna save. I'm gonna put a comment in because we don't not put comments in, right? So setting up. The build. Sorry, not the build. I have a little bit of a problem with some of the nomenclature on Azure pipelines a little bit. I find myself getting confused because they're all called pipelines. There's a build pipeline, a release pipeline, and I find myself sort of like when I'm looking at the UI, referring to the wrong one, but setting up the release pipe for the first time.
Okay.
And that's actually important. What I really like is that there is history in these things, and we can look back at the changes. We couldn't do that kind of stuff, I don't think, really well in VSTS, at least not from my memory. Maybe not in the earlier versions. And so, what I want to do is, I ran my build, now I'm going to create a release, okay? It's going to ask me what I want to do. I just say create, because none of this, I'm choosing the defaults here. And let's see what happens. It says release 1 has been created. Now, I also like to do some other customizations in the real world and provide better numbering on my releases and things like that. There's some stuff I'd like to do. We also see that I'm queued up here. Why? Why? Because this isn't my server, right? So I'm waiting in line, right? I mean, even your own server, you get queued up, but it's kind of important to recognize that I'm running on this server. It's got to tear things down. It's got to build things up from scratch. And here it goes, and it should be.
So it's in progress, and then if you click there, you get this nice terminal where you get to watch it happen, right?
You can watch it all happen.
Some of the jobs, some of the tasks, some of the steps are already done. It's already downloaded the artifact from drop. Basically, it said, yeah, okay, you told me where to go get the build.
That's right.
So now it's deploying it out, and it says I successfully deployed the package to app service. and it's just it's hey, I'm done. I did it. I did what you asked.
Yeah.
So,
So we don't even need to check. I'd rather just wrap up the
obviously
show
it's
now.
just all going to work.
because,
There's
I
no
don't wanna
way.
take any
There's no
chances.
way. It's
So
not
can we
gonna work.
just
So let's see it.
anything's possible. So let's see it. So
Well, here's what I'm wondering: is I'm curious about. We got stuck a lot on the .NET Run side of this, but let's see. Maybe.
Oh, I remember that. Right. So the easiest way from to do this is to just come over here to the app service because I don't remember the full URL
Right.
I typed in.
We don't. It's not the vanity URL.
Yeah, we don't
It's
have
not the
we
Dev
haven't done
Talk
DNS
show,
yet on
which
this, right? We will be doing that. Here it is at tdts underscore. Whoop. What happened there? Oh, okay, that just popped in. Drum roll, please.
And look at that.
Bam.
There it is.
Bam.
Nice
Yeah.
job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it went great. Isn't it great when you practice a couple times? I suppose. So what do you say? How hard is it if we had to make corrections to this site because of just
Let's do it.
the junior
Yeah.
developer pasted the text in and he got a few things wrong,
Right.
and if we wanted to make those changes, like he doesn't know how to spell days of the week, right? And he also
I
doesn't
did
know.
spell it. I was
also-
wondering where you were getting at.
He also
Right
doesn't
here.
know that Eastern Daylight Time is UTC -4, not 5. So if we wanted to make those corrections,
Yeah.
right?
How about
how,
that?
how do we? Can we do that quickly? Let's
I'm
see.
so glad I put that in.
Yeah. Oh no,
to
I
see-
agree. Right. We wanted
and
to.
we should have had
wanted
the
to
QA
show,
site.
We wanted
Yeah.
to show iteration.
The truth is this stuff is so cool right now that we've got the pipeline.
Right.
And it's so great to hear how much people are talking about DevOps now, right?
Mhm.
Like this has become. I don't know. I want to go so far as to say it's become the standard to like use DevOps and have CI/CD and stuff like that.
Sure.
But it's sure so much further along in popularity than it used to be, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's going outside the chain as well, just the common developers because of all the other features that are in there.
Yeah. So all I got to do is come into my code here, and this is all sort of
So
yeah.
we're in the view, the home index view because it's the home page.
Yeah.
The page is just slash, or technically you could go to /index, but nobody would do that. We're gonna fix the word Wednesdays.
yeah. Now I mean,
It's all right. Hey, we're gonna see
Wednesday.
a
That's
change
correct, right?
No.
Wed
Oh,
is
come on, dude.
Yeah.
it's right.
Oh, okay. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's right. I always have to say it out loud. Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, you're
It's
right.
the extra
Okay.
S is throwing you off.
Sorry.
That's what's throwing you off. Wednesday. Okay.
Yep.
So,
okay, you got it.
And because it's
UTC -4.
minus
minus
4
4 during
because I'm thinking of Eastern
standards,
Standard Time,
which is just something I.
I'm
keep in
glad you
mind.
noticed that. No,
I
that's good.
learned. I actually learned it from us streaming, and when the time zones, when we switched from standard to daylight, I went, well, that's gotta. I mean, we're
It's
not
gotta affect something.
Well, we're an hour. We're either, and honestly, I was kind of dumb about it. I was, well, we're either an hour closer or an hour further away from UTC, and so this is how bad it was. I actually Googled
Oh yeah.
what is
I
EDT?
googled it, but I must have googled Eastern because
Yeah.
I didn't remember the font.
I googled what's EDT and UTC,
Yeah.
and Google's like ETC. It's UTC. So
Google
now I
knows
just
everything.
know it. Now I
Google
just
knows
know it.
everything. So all right. So I fixed that. Now
Perfect.
I'm glad I'm doing this demo.
I like the double ats though. That's so you could get an ats. Is that?
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
that so
That's
you
a
could get
simple
an
thing.
at
Yeah,
sign
because if you
printed?
don't put the at in
Because
there,
we're in Razor
yeah,
syntax.
yeah, you're right. Of
and
course,
Razor
it tries.
syntax. It says, "Oh, you're going to do some Razor after this."
Right,
You're like,
right.
"No,
Yeah.
no."
Good pickup. There's a little tip, right? It's
Yep.
the little things that you
Right.
you see when you're doing these things. Now, I'm glad I'm doing this demo and not you because
Okay,
I
good.
want to show you how quick this goes.
Yeah.
When I don't need to switch into 4 different UIs
Yeah, no,
to
I
do the
know.
Git
That's
commits
good.
and
Right.
stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
Chris has a different way of doing this.
Yeah.
I come down here and I say, oh, click the one
Team
change,
Explorer, sure.
and I go in here and I say, fixed Andy's dumb mistakes, right? And I say, commit all. Okay, I don't need to stage. It's going to do all that for me in that case, right? It asks me because I hadn't even saved it, so it knows that I didn't even save it. It's going to ask me to save it, and that's done. Now, of course, it hasn't been pushed. So
No, actually, that's good that you point that out. That it hasn't been pushed.
yeah, it hasn't
Okay.
been pushed. The changes are still here, but
Yeah.
they're committed, and that's the magic of these types of systems.
Yeah.
like
So
Git.
locally, you've got but you got to go sync it up with
Right.
with and this happens to be in Azure repos.
Right. Git in
Git
Azure
in Azure
repos.
repos.
Right. And so then I simply say push.
Yep.
Now it might, hopefully it'll work fine. It might tell me I have a change out there that I didn't pull down first. If it did, I can just hit the pull
Well,
button.
now you got to rush over to Azure repos, right? Because this is where the
Sometimes it goes
CI/CD
fast.
stuff
Yeah,
goes.
Let's go quickly and go to builds. Oh, you said repos, but you mean this?
So look at this.
It's already
in progress.
In progress.
It's already
clock,
washing.
so-
It's already working on Satya's machine.
And we
Preparing
can
an
watch.
agent
It's
for the
queued up.
job.
It's queued up.
It's
Here we
doing
go.
it.
Here we go.
This is what's awesome, and you can see that this is officially that's the washing machine symbol there
The
for each
washing
task that's
machine,
in
yep.
progress. Right, it's running it through the
Yep.
spin right now. .NET
The
build
spin.
and release. Yeah.
Spin cycle. The double rinse. We have this is the wash. The next one's the rinse.
Is it?
I think so.
Probably.
And so this is happening. Now the one thing is I don't recall when we set up the release pipeline if it's automatic.
Okay.
And if it wasn't, we can go
We're
back.
gonna
and
find out. Yeah.
play around
We're
with
gonna
that,
find
yeah.
out. But this is it. This is why. So we went through all the effort of setting up this pipeline, and what's awesome about it is there were a couple little things that we could fix real quick, and this is why you do it, because the feedback in just a matter of minutes, we're gonna be able to go back to the website and not only do this. This proves to us that we can make changes, we can have them built, we can deploy them, and they will be up on the real live internet,
Right.
or as you pointed out, maybe a QA site, so
Right.
that the team could approve it and say like, "Yep." Even because the good reason to have a staging site is to say just because we made a change and the change worked, we actually might want to see it in action, because there's a whole class of bugs and errors called runtime errors, which are like, well, they're not even really runtime errors. They're everything works, nothing's broken, nothing blew up, but that's not what we wanted.
Right.
I don't
Right,
even know what you would
exactly.
call those, because they're not really runtime errors as much as it's just like, I mean, you can have a
Mistakes?
compile error.
I call them mistakes.
Yeah, you can have a compile error. You don't even get the code built.
Yep.
You can have it break on build because the unit test failed. Something like that. You can have it break on release because somebody broke the release pipeline, the Azure website got deleted or something.
And thanks,
then you
Bruno.
can-
Bruno thinks it's cool. Thanks,
Yeah,
Bruno.
yeah. All done. It's so
So there it is.
and the release is out. Or
Well,
did
so
we
let's
rush over
find
to
out what the release is. And it did not
Okay.
kick off release.
Okay.
So,
Do we know why?
well, we can find out why, right? I believe the reason is because of the way the triggers are set up. So over here, the artifact filter is disabled. Is that right?
I would look at the one on the artifact with the lightning bolt.
The lightning bolt, manual only. This thing. This is what I clicked.
So the
Oh,
artifact.
I'm sorry. You know what I did? I had the bottom one.
Oh.
I thought I clicked the.
So what's it?
So-
That's pre-deployment condition. So let's look at this. This is
Yeah.
really good. There's two icons there, but now do they both say pre-deployment conditions or?
Yes, those are.
How did I get it? I had a different screen. Where was that window that I had there?
Hang on.
Okay.
So to Chris's point, yes, this is a different screen, right? So this is looking at you're ready to you have your artifacts, you're ready to go ahead and push them to the stage. So a pipeline has already been kicked off at this point.
Okay.
So that's what this is telling you. What are those triggers before I can actually go ahead and push that code out? If you go back to the artifacts window and the lightning bolt on there's your continuous deployment.
Right.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
disabled.
Yeah.
So we want to enable it. And we could have branch filters on there and all kinds of things, right?
What's cool is, you can have branch filters. You can also have, if you were to go, if you do the drop down on the ad.
I think this is where you say the build pipeline's default branch, or you could even say like, hey, I'm gonna build on the QA branch
Right,
only.
right.
Only when you push to QA branch. Now, I'm assuming that the build pipeline's default branch means the default branch for the repo, or interesting. Which would be master in our case.
Right. I mean, and typically that's what.
Do you need to put the filter in, or does
Nope,
it just
you don't.
That's
because
just optional,
enabled by
right?
itself said
Right.
create a release every time a new build is available?
Right.
Okay.
So
Pull
let's-
request trigger. What is pull request
So
trigger?
enabling this will create a release every time a selected artifact is available as part of a pull request.
Now that's an interesting idea, though. You wouldn't set up a pipeline to go to production, but you could set up a pipeline. I'm assuming here to say that when somebody just creates a pull request, what's the number one thing that happens in pull request? You might be assigned to review it. Great, I looked at the code. Does it work? See what this could do is not only could you still look at the code and you could still review it. If you set up a pipeline that worked on a pull request trigger, it would be
goes
out
off to an area that's
somewhere.
obviously not production.
Somewhere.
Or like that,
Maybe this is like your pull request area.
Yeah, pull request area.
And,
Right.
and you could go look at it and go, yep,
That's a good idea.
I like that feature there. We'll have to look at that.
So I'm gonna hit save on this.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say enabled trigger.
Now, is there anything else that we could change on the site quickly?
I'm sure there's other mistakes.
Well, there might not be. I might have been perfect and spotted them all.
Well, let's just because we want to see the whole thing go through.
Yeah,
end to
I want
end.
to see it all happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could tell you that there's some things on there. Do I still have it up over here? Like this YouTube catalog. Is that pointing to the old? No, that's the new YouTube.
Yeah.
Switch. These are new. This is new. We could add.
How about we say where it says "Please say hi," we capitalize the H.
Oh well, yeah, sure. Why not?
I just want,
Why
I
not?
just want
You
something.
wanna run
You
through
wanna,
it again.
I just want to see it.
Wait, did you save that pipeline with the automatic continuous deployment?
I think so.
we're,
Why?
we're pretty sure.
Could be.
Hit
No.
save. Remember I put the comment
Yeah,
in there. I
and
said
save
enable
is
trigger.
Save is.
Hey, wait. Let's find out if I did. So if I go to the history, we can see the
enable
changes I
trigger.
made.
Cool.
Right.
Nice.
And
nice.
what's
What
cool?
if you click on it?
Yeah. What's cool is
Compare difference.
yeah. So you've not. This is really cool, right? So it's going to show us now. The problem is you get a lot of these modifieds, and
Mhm.
you know I find that there's a lot of false positives, if you want to call them that, of the things that you're not.
They
looking
were
for.
changed, but it wasn't what was
It
important.
wasn't
to
what
you.
was important, but here it is. I believe it's
So this is JSON.
yeah.
Is that
this
right?
the-
It's not YAML.
This is JSON representation of the build, and
Interesting.
this
They
is
go triggers.
triggers right here. See that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Cool.
so it's cool that we can see that kind of stuff.
Right.
So the history has become pretty helpful when you're diagnosing things and trying to figure out what's going on. You know, you can compare different things.
Or
and
what
stuff
did you
like that.
do?
Yeah. What did you do to mess this up, or what did you do that was right or wrong?
Okay. So we
So,
made a quick change.
Yeah. So let's go over here. Let's change high.
You gotta go commit it.
Well, I didn't put it in there yet. So let's find.
That's funny.
What?
You search for high, and so far we're on search result 3
Yeah.
because Philly keeps coming up. I just found that amusing. And I think
Yeah.
that has never happened to me before.
Here it is.
Oh,
Please
mercy.
say hi. Okay. How about please say hi with an exclamation point?
Awesome.
Okay. Save
I'm
that.
sure we broke the view in some way just by doing that.
Yeah, the exclamation point is like a special character.
Not true, but
uppercase
funny
hi.
because you know that would happen on the fly. So the index CS HTML, which is the view,
I'm kind of moving quick
that's
because
gonna
we want to get
we're
this
gonna
up
push
there.
that out, and then we can rush back to see the build happen.
Well, we don't need to rush back because it takes a minute, but you know.
I don't
What
know,
I wanted
man.
to ask while this is going, I
how
actually
to-
have another question for Rich.
Look at that. Uppercase high is already here.
It's already here.
It's already preparing an agent.
Yeah. So something we're thinking about doing at work
Yeah.
is switching to have some of our own build agents.
Okay.
Because or maybe using more. So what we're using here is the default build agent, right?
Mhm.
You can add build agents
Right. What do you-
for a certain money, right? For a monthly fee, you can have more build agents,
okay.
access to more build agents. So you're not getting like backed up when you have a lot of builds. Let's say you have lots of teams doing things.
Right.
So then I was thinking about using our own build agent, which we would, let's say, my assumption is we would take like a VM in Azure and put a build agent on it.
Okay.
And then we would point DevOps to that thing. So it would be our dedicated build agent. And I'm wondering if that would make things faster, like if you have any knowledge on, because I'm not complaining about the speed. This is shared resource. It has to do a lot to do that. It's pretty amazing.
Right.
But I was figuring, well, if we use our own, I'm thinking it's going to work more like the on-premises VSTS world where I was at, where you know everything was saved. You could look back at things. It would, you know. Can you
Well, the
talk-
build's done, so the release is on its way.
The release
Right?
is on
That's
its
what
way.
we want to see.
Yeah. So,
It's-
I mean, just to kind of drill into that
yeah,
a little
it's
bit.
going.
It says production, but maybe we didn't enable that. Is it going?
It's in the middle of doing it, I think.
No, it says not deployed. So it created it, but it didn't deploy it.
Oh,
So we didn't enable
the trigger on release. Okay,
on the.
so let's see what we did here.
All right. Well, I don't have to go back and make another change. Bruno's going to take back his "That's so cool"
I
think
know.
soon because
We can always.
it was
rerun the
cool.
release.
All right, so let's
Yeah,
edit
so
this thing
You
again.
can run the release.
Yeah, I could,
Yeah, I know.
but I don't think Chris wants.
No,
me
it's
to.
okay. This time we.
By the way, I never
proved,
named it, so it's
well,
still called
for one
New
thing,
Release
we have
Python.
kind of proven the point because it did try. It did
Yeah.
try to do the release. It's just that the release created the artifact that was part of the trigger, but the trigger for pre-deployment conditions. That's interesting.
After release.
Is that what that means here?
I get confused.
Because it was on manual only.
Select artifact condition to trigger a new deployment. A release will be deployed to this stage only if all artifact conditions match. That's not right.
And hold on. There are no artifact filters. So that means if you were to enable artifact filters, or if you were to put it on a schedule, or if you were to say that there were gates, then I think those would all. It's a little. We got to think about it kind of backwards, right? Is that you said after release do the deployment. To me, and I may be wrong here. Tell me if I got this right. These sound like unlesses.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
What's
after
weird
release,
is that I've done this a lot of
Oh, okay.
times, and I don't remember ever having to sort of do this.
All right, well, let's
but
just run the release.
Let's just see
again.
if by any chance it's actually going, and we just don't realize.
I think you were right that it halted on release too. That it was like, yeah, I did the artifact.
Yeah, the release is here, like it exists,
Yeah.
right? But it didn't do this. Anyway, let's just kick it off and do deploy.
Right. So what you really did here is you said release 2, we have an artifact, manual deployment.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think a lot of people find confusing when you get into this world. There's a difference between a release and a deployment. Release is put that package together, create that release, that thing that we will deploy to various environments, right? And for some reason, it's not deploying. So
Had to be one of the settings we were playing around with because you're right that flipping the trigger to say continuous deployment, that's pretty much all you need to do.
yeah, now
Okay.
I'm tempted. Well, let's just kick it. While it's doing that, we'll go back and we'll take a look because we can.
So now
edit
it's
it.
queued, and then we know waiting in the deployment queue. It's going
And
to
by
go
the
up.
way, one thing that's killing me here is that this thing is called New
You
Release
want to change the
Pipeline
name,
because I never named it,
right?
right? So go back to it. I guess you do
For
that.
that, yeah.
And then I think I can
Edit.
just type. Oh, edit, right? And then I can just type over the name right here.
Yep.
And this is going to be called our TDTS. What do you guys think? TDTS lowercase? I don't know. TDTS CD, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And let's see if we can figure this thing out while we're in there. See, there should be a line from here to here, shouldn't there? Don't you get like a?
Should be connected, yeah.
Let's just see if I. Now there's a line. See when I clicked after release? After
Right.
release.
Right.
After the release is
Previously it was
created.
manual.
Yeah, I don't need any of this thing. I think I clicked it while we were looking at stuff
Yeah, I
before
think it was- yeah.
and screwed it up, right? Because
was
I just
just
went
an
like that
accident,
to
right.
see what
Yep.
we were at.
Yep.
And it wasn't like it's not
After
changing
release,
the window.
and we
Yeah.
don't have any. We're not enabling any of the filters that would stop the release.
Yeah,
we're basically
exactly,
saying,
right.
man, you get an artifact out. Go ahead and send it.
And you screwed up the trigger again. All right.
Well, anyways, the last deployment should already be out, so
Oh,
we
yeah.
should be able to F5.
Well, let's take a
on-
look first.
Yeah, in
it's there.
production.
Okay.
So you can even just F5 that or Control F5 it or whatever it takes, and
It's
it's gonna
spinning.
think a little. That's and there it is.
Oh,
the capital H.
my
Please say
gosh.
hi. Good stuff.
It's cool. It's not hard, really. But like anything else, it's you know.
I don't have. I
I
can't think
will
of any more changes.
No, but
it
the
is
thing
cool,
is,
though.
this is one of those things that, like, I will say, when we do these things at work, we always say, "Oh, it only takes 5 minutes to set this up," and it really doesn't. It's going to take a little while. I don't care what the demos show. When you get really good at it, you bang it out. I made something. I guess we got confused because I clicked that extra thing and it set us off. But those are the things that happen. Those are the things that happen. But once it's set up, it's good to go.
Well, what I think the nice thing is now is if you think back before you had, and I don't care if it's Azure DevOps or any tool that does CI/CD for you.
Right.
Before, when we were kind of, you might have had some. The level of maturity has gone on over years. Maybe in the quote unquote old days, you might have had a build machine, or you might have even had a build engineer, and you said, "Hey, it's their job to build the product."
Right.
And then they put it somewhere. I
Usually
don't
had
know.
both.
Could have been on a network
machine
share.
and one person responsible for doing
Sure.
it. So
And it could have ended up on a network share, or you might have even burned a CD. I mean, I remember some of those days. And then, okay, now you got to release it. So we got to make sure that we X-copy, because with ASP.NET we were fortunate enough to be able to start X-copying, to X-copy from the right share to the right server. Boy, don't get it on the wrong server. Whoops, I got it on the wrong. I was supposed to go to staging. Oh my gosh, I went to prod. And what's kind of nice is you get this pipeline set up. We've moved that all the way back to you pushing code to Git.
Yep.
So you push code to your source control, and the rest of it is a predetermined plan that you've built out.
Right.
We've now tested. So now you do a little bit of work on this tomorrow. Website updates.
Yeah.
Now I know
and
it's
we will,
not,
because tomorrow we're going to change this YouTube.
Right.
The latest episode's going
Right.
to be this episode.
Yeah, like someday, and then someday it will do that in code. It'll say,
Right.
well, let's go to the channel and get
Sure,
the latest
sure,
episode.
right.
But that's great.
Maybe we'll write
Little at a time, right? Little at a time. And every time you do it, it goes. You can go all the way to production, like some folks would, or in our case, you might be more comfortable saying, well, let's have a staging area so I can prove it out, and then this can all be enabled where we say, okay, we've proven it out. Just for fun, we could even have things like 2 of the 3 of us have to approve it.
Yeah.
And then, 2 of the 3 of us have checked staging, and boom, it goes into prod. I think we can enable all of that.
right,
Yeah.
and you can even take it a step further where you say, we do our feature creation off on different branches, or changes off on different branches. When we go to push it back to master, we create a pull request to do that. We can say that the master has to, or that all of the tests have to run on check-in before it would go ahead and do that merge back to master when we do a pull request. So there's all kinds of instrumentation and pipeline blocking, if you will, to make sure that what gets into the master branch is really something that we're comfortable can live there.
I'd like to learn about DevSecOps a little bit, which is, we're putting that other 3 letters in there, security, right? And so I'm told, I haven't done this yet, and I don't know if you guys have experience with this, but I'm told that you can put in, let's say, filters, if you want to call them that, into your pipeline that'll say, wait a second, I see something that looks like you're checking in something that looks like a password or a GUID, and we're not going to allow that. We're going to fail the commit and stuff like that. That's something I'd like to learn about.
Yeah.
So there's just so many things. There's so many places you can take this stuff.
I think I've even seen it I've seen some samples in Azure DevOps to like bring in a linting tool like Sonar Lint or Sonar Cube, so you work, code gets checked in, a Sonar Cube report is created, and just to briefly explain Sonar Cube, it statically analyzes your code and says, it can find harmless things like, oh, you've got a variable there that you don't use, maybe you should take it out. But then even more interesting things like, that code there is ripe for invalidated input being injected.
Yeah.
Like, and it can definitely really save you. So that can be part of your pipeline. And even though you didn't catch it, nobody caught it in code review, it still gets stopped in its tracks, basically. Like, no, this code's not going out. Products like Twistlock, which will examine the Docker image that you've chosen and say, because maybe you're not, as much as developers, we got to start paying more attention to the news and security updates. We didn't realize that there's an important .NET Core update that went out today. So I went to try to do a deployment, and Twistlock in our Azure DevOps pipeline steps in and says, wait a second, you can't use x.y.z anymore.
Wow.
So you got to stop. And those are the kinds of things that's really nice to have automated, because then, and I think that could be considered the DevSecOps, the sec part of DevSecOps. There's a lot more to it than that. I mean, these are buzzwords, so they probably mean different things to different people, and I'm probably being a little unfair saying that I know exactly. There isn't one definition, right?
I mean, it's been a it's been a quite, well, not that we're wrapping up. We've been talking about it's been a good. The clock's out, so you guys can't see that we are actually.
Oh yeah.
It's been a long show.
Yeah.
But I think DevSecOps is certainly something that we could tee up for a specific, maybe the next one or one of the future ones. Because there are some cool add-ins and things that have been released recently that we can talk about.
Oh, cool.
What that looks like. So
yeah, I'd like to see it. That'd be helpful for me to learn.
yeah, so I've got a couple of things, to wrap things up. We've got some stuff that's gone on in the community, some stuff that's gone on the web. So one of the things that I'd like to do is I think most every episode we're going to share maybe what we're watching, what we're reading, what we're learning about. And so, that's interesting.
Is that your screen?
The monitor that.
It's my screen.
Oh yeah. That's Andy's screen. So I've got a YouTube video up right now.
You do.
Yeah, hopefully I do.
Hang on. Let me find you here.
Anyways, we'll talk about a few things. So, coming in September, free virtual event .NET Conf.
There you go.
And the reason why I want to bring this up is this virtual event is it's hosted, put on by Microsoft, and I think generally speaking the .NET team. It's from September 23rd through the 25th. There's going to be like keynotes and stuff on the 23rd, and then just tons of sessions for the next couple days, including sessions in every time zone around the planet for
that's cool.
For at least 24 hours.
Yep.
I'm being a little unfair because I didn't prep to see exactly how long that is. We do know that .NET Core 3 is slated to launch at .NET Conf, and the reason I bring this up is this is the call for papers. There's still a few days left for you to submit a 30-minute talk idea that you can do from your own home and stream into .NET Conf. And what a great way to get started sharing what you know about .NET or something that you're passionate about, or even a tip to help developers who are probably fighting the same issues that you are.
You're going worldwide. If
It's
you're, if you're
worldwide.
involved in this,
Yeah.
you're going worldwide.
It's awesome. It's a great thing to be
cool.
involved in.
Even
So
if you
there's
get a
just
time slot of 3 o'clock in the morning, that's still cool, right?
Whoops.
Just,
Oh no!
he
No.
got unplugged.
What?
Chris knocked his.
I knocked my own connection out here. Hopefully that gets back
I
in
gotta
quickly.
back
get
up?
that back up here.
Look, we're floating, and I don't know. That's not no. Okay.
Then the other thing I wanted to mention is that we are, and it's going to come up, I think, in just a second. I hope. Yeah. And we are less
Same
than
one I have up.
24
There you go.
hours away from an interesting announcement planned by GitHub. They put this page up that says "See what's next from GitHub," and they got a countdown clock, and they're letting you join a live stream. The CEO of GitHub wants to talk about a product announcement, and that's just to me
That's a teaser,
from
right
GitHub.
there. Yeah.
From GitHub. So definitely don't forget to check this out. And if you're watching us in the future, then you already know what the answer is. But if you're watching us tonight, then
At least it's more than 14 hours in the future.
and
they know more than we do.
I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about whatever this is very soon, since we are so interested in source control and
Oh, yeah.
and
Sure.
how are we going to manage our project. I mean, a lot of people manage their projects from GitHub. I can't wait to see what this is.
I mean, the fact that they're putting it out like this way.
Yeah, it makes
this
you
sounds
wonder,
pretty
like, what is
exciting.
this, right? Because
Yeah,
half
I mean,
the
it could
time,
be a bust. but
GitHub
it
just
sounds
like
pretty exciting.
it just shows up on the GitHub
Yeah,
blog.
you know,
Oh,
right.
today we added this.
But they're
Sometimes it's not
doing
even
like
on
a
the blog.
whole.
Yeah,
I guess it's a whole stream like event,
I don't know.
right?
I don't know.
Like they're gonna lift the curtains and
We talk a lot about Azure DevOps on this show. What I think is really great, and I've got their blog up here, is the Azure DevOps team just blogs out when their sprints are done,
Yeah.
and they just say, "Oh yeah, by the way, we were joking about this earlier. By the way, we've updated Azure DevOps. So
There it
if you and what the blog should really say here is, so if you're working on a presentation, you'd better go check out what we did." But you know,
there's a great. So you have that link there. They
Yeah.
do a little bit of a video, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on the number
Sure.
of things that are in there. Talking about what's been released. That release happens every, I think, 3 weeks. We're doing them now in
Yeah.
Azure DevOps. And if you're really interested in how we're building DevOps, we use Azure DevOps to build Azure DevOps.
Yeah.
right?
it's
So
awesome.
A little recursion going
Oh,
on there.
dude.
But
It's awesome.
there's if you go out to the docs, maybe we can throw some links into the description here. But we have a really great description around how we go through and do that process, and how we're able to all the tests that run on check-in and really the processes that happen in place to make DevOps as robust as
Now
it
look at
is.
this. Azure Boards app for Slack. Invite GitHub collaborators into DevOps. Code search filtering options. Share your packages publicly with public feeds and preview. Oh, wow. Interesting. So your project could build a package, and then other people could start, like an open source project, right? Other people could look at nightlies, I'm guessing, right? that's being totally unfair to that awesome release notes thing. And then a segment that I'd like us to work on is like what we're watching, what we're doing, what are we talking about. And so I wanted everyone to see, and we're going to put this link. We'll put this link in the notes on YouTube.
Right.
Maybe if we prep a little in the future, we would get up on screen live. But here's a talk that I think was really interesting to me. This was at NDC Oslo, just this year's conference. So just a month or two ago. It's very new, and it's called Lowering in C#, What's Really Going On in Your Code. And Dave does not work on the compiler team. He says that right at the beginning of his talk. But what he talks about here is when you write something in code, he's not actually talking about that. We don't really care too much about like the low level IL, but what he wants to discuss is, so what really happens to your code? What happens when you concatenate in a string? What happens when you use an interpolated string? What happens when you string format? And then he's got some code examples here where he actually goes into the compiler and shows, but he breaks down the for each loop. And he talks about how when we for each, an enumerator gets created and it gets moved next, gets run over it. And by the way, something that I didn't know, in C#5 that was changed. And so a breaking change was made in C#5 to how for each works that probably didn't affect any of us here on our day-to-day, but was super important for an important use case. Wow. And so the whole entire talk is, he calls, the term is lowering, which is to say there's so much going on in C# that gets translated down closer to what the compiler is actually going to do. And he calls that process lowering. If you understand what the compiler is going to do, it helps you to think about your code, not just from a performance perspective or a what's this really doing perspective, but maybe just to get you to think about what we're writing day to day to begin with. We live at such a high level of abstraction, and what's really happening under the covers is totally different. So this is the talk that I looked at. Goes into some interesting things with yield and how for each works with lambdas and how the heck did they get that working in the first place. And how does the yield statement work? Because like the yield return stuff creates this whole state machine, and it just happens. It just happens, right? It just happens.
Just there.
And yet it turns out that the compiler, or at least, the compiler has to create this whole machine for you, right? So great talk. You should check it out. Make sure you Google lowering in C#. I think it's pretty easy to find. And we'll try to get that link out there.
And that's in like common English, like people can follow that.
Yeah, I thought. Well, and you got to be a C# developer.
Well, sure, yeah.
But I didn't feel like it was. Your mileage may vary. I suppose there certainly were parts of it.
Because these are deep. That sounds like deep stuff.
It is, and not every time. I think I've got some other ideas I have for what we're watching. And I think sometimes they won't always be programming related, so we'll see how that goes.
But, that'd be fun.
Yeah, we'll see. So, anyways, demos take time, and thank you for sticking it out with us today to watch us deploy the Dev Talk Show site to a real live place on the internet. It really is there, currently at tdts-test.azure website, but soon enough we'll be at the devtalkshow.com. I don't know if that launch will happen live, or maybe we'll have it ready to go next time.
Do that ahead of time,
yeah. Cool. So what do you think? Any final thoughts? Was that fun putting that together?
It was fun doing live. We get a little trying to figure it out as we go a little bit. I mean, it was a little practicing in advance, but it wasn't like totally polished or anything like that. And I think I'm looking forward to doing some more. I'd like to try like live coding. Like, hey, let's build something. That's something I look forward to. But I'm excited about this show. I think this is a really cool format. I hope we grow. I hope people that are watching or that will watch in the future will tell their friends. What are they supposed to say? Hit the like button?
Yeah.
Subscribe? Hit the like button?
And you're right. So if you're watching right now, you're watching us on Mixer, Twitch, or YouTube, you can subscribe or follow on all three platforms. Subscribing on YouTube is a huge help because that gets us closer to a vanity URL. And following on Twitch or Mixer will let you know, you'll get notified when we go live. And Twitch has a great feature called Twitch Events where you could even just see the upcoming events on Twitch as long as we have that calendar filled out. So we did see some old friends today in chat, so thank you very much for joining us. And if you are watching us from the future, and you've seen us on YouTube, then please, once again, check out the rest of our content in the YouTube archive. Hopefully by now there's a few more shows. And if you like what you see, like the video. If you like the topic, comment on it so that you know, so we can find out like what do you want us to dive into, or is there anything that even you think we can improve on? Like even the sharing of information with you, can we do a better job so that you hear us say something and maybe we should be getting links up for you so you can click and continue on. And then, like I said, subscribe to the channel so that more subscriptions and other people will find us. Those likes and follows and subscriptions, they do signal those magical search engines that we are loved, and you show up more often. We're seeing that effect with the live streams at the Philly.net organization, so it all helps. Cool. All right. Any last words? Are we good? We ready to go?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm on jet lag, so this was a lot of fun. But Rich, what do you think?
I think it's great. I think it's a good first one to put in the can, and I think we're starting something good here. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Rich, for holding everything down. You can't see in that little window how many buttons and dials he's got back there, but it all happens because he's switching cameras. He's clicking into our laptops. And thank you, Andy, for besides being partner in crime up here, for putting together the demo we could walk through today. And then thank you for watching. So for Rich and Andy, I'm Chris, and we'll see you next time on the Dev Talk Show.
See you next week.
Adios.